a ship that I saw, say, like on a Twilight Zone. I mean, it seems.
I know that's what I was going to say.
Well, it seems that maybe they would have more advanced rockets. And I mean, does it have a single rocket engine that it lands on? Does it blast off and come back the same way, or does it?
Yeah. I mean, because that one is an actual drawing. Because he would, and like I said, that one is an upgraded version of the Rand rocket design in the 40s. Now, this was in the 70s, and he was using it for training and maybe for quick transport. But they would land them in. We have a lake district. We call it the Water District, but not far from where I live, and there's meadows up there. And back in the 70s, people just, it wasn't as populated, so people just never saw half the stuff that was going in and out of there. I don't know what they have now. I mean, he's also flown, but yeah, that is like it can land and take off and come back. So it's not like you only come back in a capsule type thing. So it does re-land. But he's also flown alien craft himself, so.
So is it that then he perhaps blasts off in that rocket, lands on an alien planet, and then jumps on board one of the spacecrafts?
I don't know the technicalities of that, and that might have been more of like a near Earth, thing. So I don't know that one was for going way far out. The other things he's been in are for farther out travel. And
and
before I forget it. Go ahead.
And how many miles out there has he ever said that he's went? Does he go light years out?
He's gone out to Saturn, actually.
Mm-hmm. So are there alien?
That was in an alien craft.
Oh, okay.
Who could zip through a wormhole and be there in seconds, or it could go slower and not go through a wormhole but be there in a few days.
Mm-hmm. And so are there alien civilizations on Saturn?
I don't know that there's whole civilizations, but when he was out there for a mission, he was there was an enemy fleet coming in, and he was scouting them. And while he was doing that, he would notice that certain species were actually like mining on Saturn or Jupiter, the moons out there.
Yeah.
Probably Saturn's moons. So there are reasons why other species don't want us coming out there because, they have enterprises out there.
Yeah. I mean, I would not want to be the one to interfere with alien commerce.
No.
No,
you sure wouldn't.
Because those are particularly nasty ones. I mean,
and I will say, and I just learned this basically in the last year while I was getting ready for my England talk, and I'm also working on a documentary film. The U.S. military did have its own disc-shaped craft that were built for us by Avro in Canada, and we had 3 bases on each coast. 3. I have this someday. Oh yeah, on the East Coast we had them at Montauk in New York, Long Island, Norfolk, Virginia, and there's a base in Florida that I don't know the name. And on the West Coast we had them at Hamilton, which is right, like 20 minutes north of me in Nevada, California, and Whidbey Island in Washington, and North Island in San Diego. And those were, they had them, there was like, especially in the 50s, and then they were right at the bases, and I think they moved them later when the areas got too populated, so, too many people would be seeing them.
Yeah. So have you ever discovered what sort of weapons aliens have in general?
Ooh. I think he might have described some of them in his reports, and again, I don't, I type them and I talk about them, but I don't have them memorized. But I know, and some of it might have to do with antimatter, and we had an antimatter stuff going on.
All right. Okay, we have this question.
Yeah,
for you.
I'd have to look it up, but it's got a long name. But they do have some pretty powerful weapons. Okay.
I mean, they're not like 3 or 4 guys like on some sort of bicycle with some, just pedaling along kind of inside the spacecraft.
In September of 77, one of the missions of the battles, they destroyed stuff we were building on the moon. So they have very powerful weapons.
Here's a question for you. Have you ever been abducted?
Not that I know of.
Okay. And do you know anyone who has?
Yes, I know a few people who have told me they've had experiences.
Experiences? Like,
you mean
abduction experiences?
Right.
Okay. And now somebody here.
And I've met Ann Andrews that you've had on your show.
Yeah.
And I've talked with James Casbolt when I was in England.
Mm-hmm. Oh, how's James
and
doing?
I've met people here.
How's James doing over there?
He was fine. It was delightful to meet him and talk to him.
Excellent. Well, there's synchronicity for you.
Yeah, we got along very well.
So, all right. So you have found those that have similar experiences or knowledge of these type of activities. But this is interesting. In our live chat that's running on the site, somebody wanted to know: would it ever be possible for your husband to call from jail to the program?
No. Number one, he has to call collect, and the phone calls are only 15 minutes long, and they tape everything, and they're constantly interrupted by the operator coming on saying, "This is a call from a inmate at a state, blah, blah." Mm-hmm. It's like, it's very irritating. Mm-hmm. But no, I'm sure he probably, it's like, I don't think it's because he wouldn't want to talk, but it's because they would be taping everything.
Mm-hmm. We have this question from the live chat. Did the astronauts, like your husband, call themselves crows?
Crows. I've never heard that term.
Okay.
And I don't think he even calls himself an astronaut. Mm-hmm. He's more of like a space pilot.
Oh yeah.
Because that's what he did.
Okay.
He's basically a pilot and I just call him a warrior.
Well, we found out a couple of weeks ago that the aliens particularly don't like owls. So
owls?
Yeah.
The bird?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, if, I don't know if you don't have an orgon blaster, but maybe put an owl bobblehead doll in your car.
Well, I've got a whole collection of owl ceramic figurines.
Well, no wonder you haven't been abducted. Right there, because you should have been.
Maybe that's why my husband loves owls.
Oh man, now see.
He had a whole collection of owls.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. Now I don't know, because that didn't stop him from getting arrested. But he didn't get abducted, so still he's safe. He just got arrested, so I don't
relatively safe. No, but he's had some very interesting experiences. Not all good. Well, definitely not all good.
Yeah.
And every time these missions, he's been nearly killed in all of them. Mm-hmm. So it's amazing what he's gone through. I basically call him, people like him, his father.
Yeah.
To me, they're all heroes of a time, when we had no clue what was going on. Mm-hmm. And they were out there saving the planet's butt, at least 3 times that I know of.
Mm-hmm. Before your husband got arrested, did he ever show you secret reports?
I didn't know him then. I've only known him for the last 10 and a half years. Mm-hmm. So, all I can say is I have some of his military paperwork here that show orders, and they all say top secret, or most of them say top secret. So I know, and they are, real live military, whatever the name of those forms are. They're real life forms, and everything. I've got copies of his dad's orders and things, and they all say restricted and top secret, and so they were both. And his father, right out of World War II. Even before that kind of, but right out of World War II, his father was always involved wherever there was UFO investigations or hot spots going on. That's where he was stationed.
Yeah.
He was in the Air Force.
I think
his dad was involved with this, forever as well.
I was just wondering, we were talking earlier about whether or not we were getting messages or direction from movies, and I was just thinking about that movie 300.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, well,